The Wind Eagle. Introduction. The breath of the giant on the mountain. Have you ever heard the wind howling through the mountain passes on a cold, dark night, and suddenly shivered at the feeling that it wasn't just the wind? That's what the Tlingit people, an indigenous tribe along the Alaskan coast, have believed for thousands of years. To them, the wind wasn't just moving air. It wasn't science. It was sacred. It was the breath of a colossal being, one who hides atop the highest mountain in the world. This legend began long ago, when the earth was still young and the sky had not yet split from the sea. The Tlingit tell of a mythical creature named Gut, the mighty wind eagle. But it wasn't truly a bird. It was the wind itself. Storms, gentle spring breezes, tempests and peace. Each time Gut flapped its wings, the wind would rise. When it slept, the world would fall into silence. No boats sailed. No whispers carried. That legend was once believed. But as time passed, people forgot what had once protected them. They stopped offering tributes to Gut. They stopped singing its name in the old songs. And eventually, they forgot where the wind came from. Until one day, the sea became unnaturally still. No breeze, no birds, no crashing waves. The ocean was flat as glass, and the sky fell silent. The villagers were afraid. Boats couldn't sail. Fish no longer swam to shore. The sea's breath seemed strangled. And there, in a small hut by the rocky coast, lived a young man named Daanu. He wasn't like the others. While the village bowed their heads in defeat, Daanu looked up and asked softly, "Where has the wind gone?" It seemed like a hopeless question. But that question sparked a journey, one that would take Daanu across frozen mountains, into the heart of fear, through nameless forests, and face to face with a being powerful enough to blow the world away with a single frown. This wasn't just a quest for the wind. It was a quest to restore the link between mankind and the divine, between the small and the mighty. This is more than a story. It is a living legend of arrogance, of forgetting, and of courage. It is the call of the wild sent to those who still believe in sacred things. Are you ready to step into the world of the wind? Be careful, for once the wind rises, nothing will ever be the same. Chapter 1. The Windless Sea will begin your journey. Like this video, share the legend, and subscribe to Storylish English so you never miss a chapter in this mystical tale of the wind. Chapter 1. The Windless Sea. Long ago, along the wild coast of Alaska, nestled between towering mountains and the restless sea, there was a small Tlingit village. The people lived by the ocean, each gust of wind a blessing, each wave a sign that life continued. But then, the wind vanished. No whisper through the trees. No ripple on the water. No sail billowed with air. The Tlingit called this time the silence of the sea. They couldn't set sail. Boats remained moored in the bay, their masts standing still like broken bones. Fish no longer approached the shore. Fires struggled to ignite without the breath of wind. Everything seemed to hold its breath. In that village lived a young man named Daanu, the son of an old seafarer who had told countless tales of spirits, colossal beasts, of wind and sea as if they possessed true souls. As a child, Daanu listened with shining eyes. But as he grew, the villagers began to mock those stories. Childish legends, they said. No eagle creates the wind. It's just clouds and temperature. Yet now, with the wind truly gone, no one had answers. One early morning, Daanu left his hut and walked along the rocky cliffs overlooking the sea. It was the spot where his father once stood to watch the sun rise beyond the horizon, his eyes filled with faith in a mysterious world. Still no wind. Trees stood motionless. The sea was a lifeless mirror. He sat down, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Wind, if you can hear me, please return. If I've forgotten how to call your name, forgive me. I want to find you. I need you." No response. Only silence, wrapping him like a cold blanket. But then, something strange happened. A black raven, a creature the Tlingit regard as a messenger of mystical forces, flew overhead, letting out a long, deep croak, as if slicing a crack in the air. Daanu looked up. The raven didn't fly into the forest, but soared straight toward the mountains, the snow-covered peaks that no one dared approach, believing them to be the realm of the spirits. He understood. It was a sign. A few days later, Daanu packed a simple bag, hunting knife, dried fish, a small drum, and his father's traditional mask, and left the village at dawn. The villagers called him a fool. "No one can summon the wind back," they said. "Climbing the mountain is death," they warned. But Daanu didn't reply. In his heart, the call of the wind was louder than fear. On his journey, the ancient forest seemed quieter than usual. No bird song, no rustling leaves. Nothing. That first night, Daanu lit a fire. The flames were weak, lacking the wind's breath. Yet he beat his drum and sang the ancestral song, his father's invocation to the wind. "O wind of the heights, hear the voice of the lowland child. Spread your wings, breathe. Bring life back to the sea. Let the small ones know you still exist." He sang alone. But deep within the forest, something seemed to be listening. The next day, Daanu ventured deeper into the mountains. The terrain grew treacherous. Fog enveloped everything. No human tracks remained. Then he saw it, a massive feather lying atop a rock, longer than a man, silver white, and seemingly glowing faintly in the sunlight. Daanu trembled as he picked it up. His heart pounded. The wind eagle, not just a legend? The journey had only begun. But he knew from that moment his life would never be the same. Do you hear the wind calling? Like this video if you're intrigued by this legend, share to spread the mysterious tale of the Tlingit people, and subscribe to Storylish English to watch Chapter 2, Traces of the Wind on the Snowy Mountain, where Daanu first confronts ancient mysteries no one dares to name. Chapter 2, The Whispers of the Wind. They said the wind had vanished. No breeze stirred the trees. No current rippled the lakes. The wind chimes on Daanu's porch had long fallen silent. Even the birds seemed to forget how to glide. They flapped awkwardly now, grounded by a sky that refused to move. And so, one morning, Daanu stood alone on the whispering cliffs. The cliffs earned their name in better days, when gales would whistle through the stones, weaving music that only the brave dared to hear. Now they were just cliffs, cold, still, forgotten. But Daanu had not forgotten. He raised his arms to the empty sky, a single silver feather tied to his wrist. This was no ordinary feather. It shimmered faintly, as if remembering something the world had lost. Spirit of the wind, Daanu spoke, if you still roam the high places of this earth, hear me now. My people are fading without your breath. Come, not as a storm to destroy, but as a whisper to awaken. Silence. Then a stirring. First, a rustle, like a sigh from beneath the snow. Then a sound, so soft it could have been imagined, like a breath held between the stars. Daanu opened his eyes. From the horizon, a faint spiral of air coiled forward. Impossibly slow, impossibly real. It danced around his feet, tugging gently at his robe, lifting the silver feather with invisible fingers. Then it spoke, not in words, but in feeling. A memory, a longing, question. Why have you come, little flame? Daanu answered without voice. He let the wind into his heart. He showed it his village, frozen in silence, children too tired to run, elders who no longer told stories because their breath was too short. He showed it his dreams, of skies that sang and leaves that danced, of fires that crackled and sails that soared. The wind listened, and then it roared, not with rage, but with recognition, with return. The silver feather burst into light. The spiral rose, growing, glowing, shaping itself into wings, vast, radiant, and old as the world. The wind had heard. The wind has awakened, but what form will it take? Like if you felt the stir of the story, share to spread the whisper, and subscribe to Storylish English for Chapter 3, The Encounter with the Wind Spirit. Chapter 3, The Encounter with the Wind Spirit. When Daanu looked up at the wings of the eagle that covered the sky, he lost all sense of time. Everything fell silent, except the pounding of his heart and one question thundering in his mind. If this is the wind, what do I say to it? The creature before him was unlike anything Daanu had ever imagined. It took the form of a giant eagle, but it was not entirely a bird. Its body was made of feathers and clouds, of light and shadow. Its eyes, bright as stars, looked straight into his soul. Then a soft wind whispered, a sound as old as time, yet clear as if someone was speaking directly into his heart. You have called me, but do you know what comes with the calling? Daanu swallowed hard, but didn't step back. I'm the last one in my village who still believes in you. My people are dying because the air has stopped moving. No wind, no life. I've come to ask you to fly again. The eagle tilted its head, then stepped forward. With each movement, the air cracked like shattered glass, and small gusts of wind spun the snow into spirals. You ask me to fly again? The voice echoed like a mountain splitting open. Your kind has forgotten why the wind ever stopped. And then a vision appeared before Dana's eyes. Not a dream, but a memory. Not his memory, but the memory of the wind itself. He saw people from long ago, his ancestors, living in harmony with nature. The wind helped them sail, shift the seasons, and keep their fires burning warm through the night. But then humans grew greedy. They built windmills to force the wind to labor. They summoned it with machines. They sealed it within giant turbines, no longer honoring it as a spirit, but using it only as a resource to exploit. The wind grew angry and left. You want me to return, but what will you do differently? The wind spirit asked. Will you enslave me again? Or will you listen to my song as your ancestors once did? Daanu was speechless. He understood now. He could not command the wind. He could only plead and promise. He knelt, removed his mask, placed the silver feather on the ground like an offering. I do not speak for all of humanity, but I speak for what hope remains, for the faith still burning, for the humility before a spirit greater than us all. The wind stilled. The world became so quiet that Daanu thought he might be dreaming. Then the wind spirit folded its wings. The silver wings folded like shifting mountains. Its glowing eyes softened, not fierce, but deep like the ocean. If you truly want me to return, then prove it. Not with words, but with deeds. A breeze rose. Snow danced in circles. Daanu lifted his face, his hair gently blown back. For the first time in years, the wind truly brushed his skin. The wind spirit spoke again. Far to the east, on the peak of the Mountain of Four Seasons, there is a wind gate. It was sealed by humans out of fear of nature. Open it. Prove that humanity still knows how to listen. Daanu asked, and if I open it, then I will return. A spiral of wind lifted him into darkness. When he awoke, daylight had broken. The snow had stopped falling. He lay on damp earth, the silver feathers still clenched in his hand. There was no trace of the great being, but in the air there was wind, gentle, like breath, but real. And in Danu's heart, something had changed forever. He was no longer just a seeker of the wind. He had become the bearer of its return. Do you want to know what awaits Daanu on the Mountain of Four Seasons? Like if you felt the awakening of an ancient legend, share to let the wind fly free again, and subscribe to Storylish English to watch Chapter 4, The Sealed Wind Gate, The Forgotten Secret. Chapter 4, The Sealed Gate of the Wind, A Buried Secret. Daanu began his journey eastward the moment he left the place where he met the wind spirit. He had no map, no guidance, only faith and a promise made to an ancient soul that he would reopen the wind gate, sealed centuries ago. For 3 days, Daanu crossed frozen forests, waded through streams cold as blades, and climbed winding hills. The gray sky seemed to wait for something. The wind was still only a faint breath, but Daanu knew the wind was watching. On the 4th day, he stood before the Mountain of Four Seasons, an ancient place where each level of the mountain held a different season. At the foot of the mountain bloomed spring, fragrant and gentle. Higher up came summer, blazing sun and heavy heat. Above that was autumn, leaves falling like golden fire. And at the summit, eternal winter, frozen, biting, still. The wind gate lay at the peak, but no one had ever reached it. Daanu climbed, season by season. Each level tested not his strength, but his memories. In spring, he saw his mother taking him by the hand as a child. Days before the droughts, before the deaths, he nearly stopped, longing to return. But then he remembered his promise to the wind spirit. Summer drained him. Sweat soaked his back. The sun burned not just skin, but resolve. Still he moved on. Autumn was silent, eerily so. Falling leaves whispered lost tales. And there, he met a stranger. An old man sat beneath a maple tree. Eyes clouded, hair white. But his voice sounded like the wind of old. You wish to reach the summit? Many young ones like you came before. But they all turned back, not from exhaustion, but from fear. Daanu asked, fear of what? Fear of truth. The truth of why the wind was sealed. It wasn't some dark force. It was our own ancestors, who locked it away themselves. The old man's words stunned Daanu. They feared the storms, feared the wind tearing homes and fields apart. Rather than learning to live with nature, they sealed the gate. They didn't want freedom. They wanted control. Then, is there a way to open it? Daanu whispered. Yes. But you'll need the wind's key. A thing not found outside, but within your own heart. Daanu bowed and moved into the winter tier. where snow blanketed everything, and the wind whipped his face like icy lashes. Each step was a battle with himself. But he stood before a massive stone wall carved into the mountain. On it stood the wind gate, taller than 10 men, etched with the image of a great eagle with outstretched wings, covered in ancient script. No handle, no keyhole. And then Daanu heard the wind's voice. Place your hand upon the gate, and speak the truest words from your heart. Daanu laid his hand on the icy stone. He closed his eyes. No thoughts of glory, no dreams of fame, only of his aging mother, his young sibling, the cracked fields and the still sky. And he said, I come not to command, I come to apologize. If the wind returns, I swear to teach my people to listen again. I swear never to let you be sealed away once more. I swear by my very life. The gate trembled. Snow cascaded from the summit like a waterfall. A stream of shimmering blue light burst from the cracks. The eagle glowed bright, then vanished into the air. And for a moment, the gate opened. A colossal wind burst forth. Not violent, not destructive, but pure, primal, carrying echoes of ancient laughter, songs of the mountains, and the voices of old spirits. The wind had returned. And Daanu? He was lifted into the air, suspended between earth and sky, but felt no fear. He felt himself becoming part of the wind. The journey wasn't over, because with the wind gate open, another secret stirred, the existence of other gates, sealed in different directions by other tribes. Are you ready to follow Daanu into the unknown, to uncover new mysteries? Like if you felt the wind stir within your heart, share to spread the breeze of hope, and subscribe to Storylish English so you won't miss Chapter 5. The Four Wind Gates, a Map of Legends. Chapter 5. The Four Wind Gates, the Map of Legends. The sky seemed to widen after the first wind gate was opened. Clear breezes began to sweep across the plains, reaching distant villages. Trees swayed gently, and the earth began to breathe once more. But Daanu knew this was only the beginning. He woke up on a flat rock, halfway up a snow-covered mountain. No more swirling winds, no more mystical lights, just one object lying beside him. A weathered piece of animal hide, an ancient map, faded to a silvery gray. On the map was a large circle representing the world. In the four cardinal directions, east, west, south, north, were four eagle symbols, each with a different color. Red, wind of fire. Green, wind of forest. White, wind of snow. Yellow, wind of desert. At the center of the map, where all directions converged, was a wide-open eye with an inscription in an ancient script. When the four winds converge, the soul of the earth shall awaken. Daanu traced his finger along the map, heart pounding. It's not just one wind gate, there are 4. I've only opened one. 3 more gates remain sealed. And, if those gates aren't opened, the world cannot be fully saved. As he stood there stunned, a familiar voice rang out, not from the wind this time, but from another spirit. You've opened the first gate, but the guardians of the others will not be easily persuaded. Before Daanu stood a woman cloaked in white feathers, her eyes deep as the midnight sea, and a spiral symbol on her forehead, the mark of the ancients. I am Shaya, keeper of the wind map, and the last descendant of the breathing tribe, those who once spoke to the wind through song. Shaya told Daanu a history that humankind had long buried. 8,000 years ago, humans lived in harmony with the wind. They listened to it to farm, to travel, to learn patience and adaptation. But then greed arose. Tribes began to fight over wind-rich regions. Some places had cool breezes all year, others bore abundant fruit thanks to the wind. Eventually, war broke out. To end the conflict, the 4 chieftains sealed the wind gates together. But instead of passing down the truth, they hid it and called the wind a danger. Daanu clenched the map tightly. Then I'll seek out the 3 remaining gates. And I'll find a way to speak to the wind guardians of each direction. Shaya nodded, though worry clouded her gaze. Be careful. Each gate is guarded by a challenger, a soul forged through rage, loss, and betrayal. To open a gate, you'll need more than strength. You must be ready to face the deepest fears within yourself. Shaya handed Daanu a necklace made of white stone. This is the wind eye. Only while wearing it will you be able to see hidden signs along your path. If it changes color, it means a wind gate is near. Daanu placed it around his neck. A faint light pulsed through the stone, like the breath of a living soul. Before parting, Shaya pointed south, where the sun blazed like fire. The next wind gate lies in the middle of the whispering sand sea, where they say the wind can cut like blades, and souls can be lost forever in the singing dunes. Daanu swallowed hard. He knew the path ahead would not be easy. But this time, he was no longer alone. He had the wind. He had the map. He had his vow. And he had a heart growing stronger with each trial. His next journey would lead him to the searing desert, where the second wind gate lay dormant. There, Daanu would face the desert gatekeeper, a warrior undefeated in battle, and one who once betrayed the wind. Can you hear the wind whispering through your screen? If you're ready to follow the next chapter of this legend, hit like, share this video with fellow lovers of myth, and subscribe to Storylish English to catch Chapter 6, The Desert Gatekeeper, the One Who Betrayed the Wind. Chapter 6, The Gatekeeper of the Desert, the Betrayer of the Wind. Danu's next journey led him through a barren land, where the heat reached extreme levels and the wind howled fiercely, carrying blinding white dust. The land had no trace of green, only an endless desert stretching to the horizon, where sand and wind blended into one, indistinguishable from earth or sky. Daanu had faced many trials, but for the first time, he felt a deep loneliness. The howling winds seemed to threaten him, echoing endlessly. In front of him appeared a massive cliff, marked by fiery red stone veins, forming the shape of a colossal gate. The second wind gate, the desert wind, was right before him. But Daanu could not open this gate without facing the gatekeeper. A sudden violent gust blew past, and he heard a low, distant voice whispering, "You have arrived, but do you have the courage to face me?" Daanu turned around and saw a shadowy figure standing behind the stone gate, barely visible through the swirling sands. As he looked closer, he saw a strong man cloaked in orange-yellow robes, like a spirit of the desert. His sharp eyes showed no emotion. "I am Ter, the one betrayed by the wind, the gatekeeper of the desert. And you will not pass easily." Ter stepped closer, his voice deep and cold, cutting through the vastness of the air. "You've come here, but you know nothing of me, of what happened between the wind and me." Daanu began to feel a looming darkness, as if the sands around him buried a deep secret. He couldn't understand how someone could be betrayed by the wind. The wind had always been a companion to the tribes, the spirit of nature. Ter began to tell his story. "Long ago, I was one of the first gatekeepers. I protected this gate and aided the wind when it needed us. But then, one day, the wind changed. It no longer cared for us. It left, abandoning us to wild, raging winds that swept away everything, leaving the world dry and desolate." Ter paused for a moment, his gaze piercing through Daanu. "The wind broke its promise. It betrayed us. I opened the gate, but no wind returned. Since then, I've abandoned all faith in it." Daanu felt a weight in his heart. He understood that the betrayal Ter spoke of was not just personal but a great crisis for the natural world. But he couldn't let this hatred stop his journey. "Ter, I can't change the past, but I believe the wind can still change. It cannot be a traitor. The wind is part of this universe. We need it." Ter scoffed. "You're still young and full of hope. But the wind does not change easily, Daanu. If you want to open this gate, you must face my challenge." And then Ter raised his hand, summoning a sandstorm that engulfed Daanu. The sand slashed like blades, the wind so fierce he could barely stand. But in that moment, a strange sensation crept into Danu's body. He could feel the presence of the wind in every grain of sand, in every gust. He gathered all his strength into a single motion, reaching out to the wind. "Wind, I did not come to you for power. I only wish to understand why you changed." The storm calmed for a moment, and before Daanu, a gentle breeze appeared. Ter was astonished, his eyes wide. "You've sensed the wind. But do you have the strength to open the gate?" Daanu stepped forward, standing face to face with Ter, locking eyes with him. "If the wind can change, if I can change, then so can you. Let the wind open the gate." Ter said nothing, but there was something in his eyes, something like hope. As he nodded, the second wind gate began to open. The massive stone doors shifted, echoing across the desert. Daanu stepped through the gate, and the journey continued. But this isn't the end. Are you ready to keep exploring the magical journey of Daanu? Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to Storylish English so you won't miss Chapter 7, Forest Wind, the Secret Gatekeeper. Chapter 7, The Forest Wind, the Gatekeeper of Secrets. The second wind door closed behind Daanu, but the new space he entered was unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering trees stretched into the sky, their massive canopies blocking out the sunlight. The darkness of the forest was thick, as if everything in this world was hiding. Daanu listened, and in the whooshing sound of the wind, he sensed something strange. A gentle, silky breeze swept through the forest, far different from the fierce winds of the desert he had faced before. This breeze seemed to understand human emotions, as if it was softly comforting him. This was the forest wind, the one he had come to find. But something felt off. Daanu looked around and realized he was not alone. Someone was watching, hidden in the forest shadows. Suddenly, a low voice echoed from behind him, like a whisper carried by the wind. "You've come here for the wind. But do you truly understand its meaning?" Daanu turned around, and a vague figure appeared before his eyes. It was a woman dressed in a cloak made of bark and leaves, her face hidden beneath a hood. Her gaze was cold, yet mysterious, as if she understood everything within the forest. "I am Aira, the gatekeeper of the forest wind," she continued, her voice both a reminder and a challenge. "If you wish to proceed, you must first understand the nature of the forest wind. It is unlike the winds you've met before." Daanu felt a cool breeze sweep over his body, and he realized that this was not a test of strength, but a spiritual trial. This wind was not something to conquer. It was something to understand and feel. "The forest wind," Aira said, "is the soul of this forest. It does not merely blow. It protects, nourishes all living things. But it can also be the guardian of nature's deepest secrets." Daanu stared at Aira, not fully grasping the meaning of her words, but feeling a deep urge rising from within. He had to keep going. He had to find out why the winds had changed and why there was such a stark separation among them. "Then what must I do to pass this trial?" Daanu asked. Aira smiled mysteriously, and from the darkness, A soft breeze appeared, swirling fallen leaves through the air. In the quiet space, she continued, "You must seek the truth in the shadows. I will guide you through the secret paths of this forest, where no one dares to tread. If you can understand the rise and fall of the wind, you will see the path clearly." And so, Daanu began to follow Era, weaving through the dim trails of the forest. The dense trees surrounded them, creating a space detached from the outside world. Each step Daanu took seemed to lead him deeper into a world of mystery. The gentle breeze continued to blow, occasionally carrying strange sounds, like whispers that could not quite be heard. After a long while, Era led Daanu to a strange intersection where the earth and sky seemed to blend into one. He looked around and realized he stood in a place beyond explanation. Countless small paths crisscrossed, each one with a strange quality, as if they each held their own unique power. "You must choose a path," Era said, "but remember, wind never guides those who aren't ready to see its true nature." Daanu had no idea what to do. The paths before him all looked similar, but he had a vague sense that only one was right. He felt the invisible presence of the wind, as if it was choosing the path for him. He took a deep breath, looked into the silent space ahead, and stepped toward a dim path where a strange breeze lightly brushed past him. Will Daanu find the correct path and continue his journey? Or will he be lost in the alluring pull of the mysterious forest winds? Like, share this video, and subscribe to Storylish English to continue with Chapter 8, The Snow Wind, the Final Gatekeeper. Chapter 8, The Snow Wind, the Final Gatekeeper. Walking down the dim path, Daanu sensed a sharp change in the air. The breeze from the forest had given way to a cold, powerful gust. It felt like something was challenging him. When he looked up, thick gray clouds were gathering, covering the sky. A snowstorm was about to strike. Daanu stepped forward cautiously. The snow wind was the final trial he had to face. This wind didn't just blow through the skies. It could freeze weak souls in their tracks, stopping them from moving on. Every cold gust carried an ancient tale, like warnings about the chill of the soul and the emptiness that cannot be filled. Suddenly, a shadow flashed past him, so fast he couldn't see clearly. A man in a cloak of frost appeared. His eyes were as cold as ice, and his smile was as faint as falling snow. Daanu realized it was the snow wind himself, the final gatekeeper he had to face. "You came here for the wind," the snow wind said, his voice echoing like the howling gusts through rocky cliffs. "But do you have the strength to make it through this storm?" Daanu didn't answer right away. He just felt the freezing wind whipping across his body. Though standing in the heart of the storm, he felt a strange warmth deep inside him, as if an invisible force was protecting him. "You've come far," the snow wind continued. But the final test isn't just about surviving this storm. It's about whether you can face yourself. Daanu didn't fully understand those words, but he felt a powerful urge rising from within. To move forward, he had to understand himself better than ever. He took a deep breath and began walking into the snowstorm, one step at a time, like a brave warrior facing an invisible enemy. The snowstorm engulfed everything. The falling flakes pelted his face like icy stones, but Daanu didn't waver. The colder the wind blew, the more it tried to stop him. But a force from within kept him going. "You can do this," said the snow wind, his voice like encouragement. "But you must conquer yourself. You must face the fear inside." Daanu paused, listening to the wind and feeling the silence within the storm. Suddenly, an old memory returned. A time when he had lost faith in himself. Times when he felt alone and abandoned. Times when he feared challenges too great to overcome. He had wanted to give up many times. But now he realized it was those fears that made him stronger. "I won't give up," Daanu said to himself. "I won't let fear control me anymore." And at that very moment, the snowstorm ceased. The ground softened, and the air became fresh again. Snowflakes now gently floated down, as if the storm had only been a small challenge he needed to overcome. The snow wind stood there, looking at Daanu with steady and proud eyes. "You have passed the final test," the snow wind said. His voice was no longer cold, but full of pride. "You didn't just face the wind, you faced yourself. You've learned the most important lesson. Only when we truly understand ourselves can we overcome any challenge." Daanu felt a deep peace within. He had completed his journey, faced all the harsh trials, and learned priceless lessons about himself and about the wind. But he knew this journey was only the beginning. Ahead of him, many wonders still awaited. What will Daanu do next? What has he truly learned from this trial-filled journey? And what will happen when he returns to his people, carrying the strength of the wind within him? Like, share this video, and subscribe to Storylish English to continue the adventure in Chapter 9. The New Wind, A New Journey. Chapter 9. A New Wind, A New Journey. After overcoming the final challenge from Snow Wind, Daanu stood atop the mountain, where not a trace of the icy storm remained. He felt a peaceful stillness surrounding him, yet within his heart stirred a longing for new discovery. The blizzard had ended, but a new breeze, gentle and warm, was blowing from afar. This wind was unlike any he had felt before. It wasn't cold, it wasn't forceful, but it carried hope and promise. Daanu knew his journey was not over. This new wind was a turning point, a sign that a new path was opening before him. He sensed that it was time to move forward, to do something greater, not just for himself, but for all those he would meet along the way. As he began to walk, The new wind swirled around him gently, like a close friend welcoming and guiding him. Daanu no longer felt the exhaustion of the days gone by. Each step now carried a lightness and confidence he had never known before. He understood that although the journey had been difficult, it was the very trials that had made him stronger, that had taught him nothing was impossible. Daanu continued along new paths, through landscapes he never imagined he would see. Vast grasslands, crystal-clear streams, towering ancient forests, and misty mountains. Every place he reached, he felt that each breeze carried a unique message. One day, while passing through a dense forest, he came upon a group of people gathered around a campfire. They were seekers of truth, wanderers who had also faced trials and tribulations like Daanu. He saw in their eyes a shared hope and deep inner strength. They, too, had endured darkness and pain, yet here they were, continuing their journey with unshakable faith. An older man among them looked at Daanu and smiled. "Where do you come from?" the man asked. Daanu replied, "I've walked through storms, faced the snow wind, and I've learned how to face myself." The man nodded, his eyes shining with understanding. He spoke slowly. "Then you've learned the most important lesson. Only when you face yourself can you begin to understand the winds of life. You haven't just overcome trials, you've become a part of the wind to pass on its message to the world." The old man's words made Daanu realize something vital. The journey wasn't just about overcoming personal challenges. It was about sharing the lessons and experiences with others. He was no longer just a seeker of truth, he had become a guide. This feeling was like a new wind, a new strength. He felt that now he could inspire others, helping them rise up, overcome hardships, and discover their own inner power. As the meal ended, the group stood up and prepared to continue their journey. Daanu felt a special connection with them, a sense that he had found true companions in life. The new wind wasn't just blowing through mountains anymore. It now stirred within his heart, carrying a message of hope and a new beginning. Daanu no longer felt fear. He no longer dwelled on past hardships, but instead saw the endless possibilities ahead. He had become part of the wind, part of life, where everything wasn't just about struggle, but also about motion and transformation. What lies ahead for Daanu's journey? Will his lessons help others find their path? And what will unfold as he becomes one with the new wind? Like, share this video and subscribe to Storylish English so you won't miss Chapter 10. A New Wind, The Infinite Discovery. Chapter 10. A New Wind, Infinite Discovery. Daanu stood before a vast valley, where lush green fields blended with the clear blue sky, and sunlight streamed down in golden beams. He had walked through unimaginable trials, overcome storms and blizzards. But now he could feel not just the strength but also the gentleness of a new wind dancing around him. This new wind was not just a force of nature. It was a symbol of transformation, a sign of an endless journey with no visible end. Daanu was no longer just a boy seeking the truth. He had become a part of the wind, constantly moving, constantly changing, and constantly bringing something new to the world. Daanu smiled as he felt the presence of the new wind, as if it were whispering to him that everything he had endured was part of his growth. The snowstorms, the seemingly insurmountable challenges, they had all been accepted and overcome. And now he understood that life, like the wind, never stands still. Each day is a new opportunity to learn, to be challenged, and to discover the infinite. Daanu kept walking, his steps light like the wind, carrying with them a great confidence and a deep yearning. He passed by mountains where the breeze carried the fragrance of mysterious forests and over rolling green hills. With every step, he realized that life was not a destination but an endless journey. Discovery wasn't just about going to new places. It was about discovering oneself and the hidden potentials within. Daanu arrived at a small village nestled at the foot of the mountain, where the villagers were busy working. They laughed. They shared stories and everyday wisdom. But in their eyes, Daanu saw something. They were missing a new wind in their lives. He walked toward a group gathered around a campfire, and they invited him to sit. "Where are you from?" an elderly man asked Daanu. Daanu replied gently, "I come from places where the wind never stops blowing, from places where I learned that only when we face the storm can we truly understand the power of the wind." The old man looked at him, and it seemed he instantly understood what Daanu meant. He nodded and said, "Then you've learned the most important lesson in life. To live in this world, it's not just about having the strength to resist the storm, but knowing when to let the wind lead the way." The old man's words created a deep connection within Daanu. He had overcome so many challenges, and those trials only made him stronger. He realized that, like the wind, change is inevitable, and everyone must learn to accept and adapt to it. That is how we move forward, not by fighting the wind, but by letting it guide us. Daanu stayed by the fire, listening to their stories, feeling the peace and calm that surrounded him. He didn't need to do something grand or extraordinary. He just needed to be himself, live in his truth, and flow with the rhythm of life. In that moment, Daanu realized his journey wasn't just a personal quest, it was a journey meant to be shared. Sharing lessons, experiences, and stories about the wind with others. Like the wind itself, Daanu's new breeze would never cease, but would continue to spread, bringing change to those ready to receive it. Can Daanu help others by sharing the valuable lessons he has learned? Will the new wind blow into the villages, bringing change and hope to those living within? If you want to keep exploring Daanu's inspiring journey and the new winds that will sweep through life, don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to Storylish English so you don't miss the next chapter. Chapter 11. The Wind of the Future, Reaching New Heights. Chapter 11. The Wind of the Future, Moving Toward New Heights. Daanu stood atop a tall mountain where the sky and the earth blended into a magical scene. The light of the sun was fading, but its last rays still pierced through the clouds with a soft glow. He gazed into the distance, feeling the stillness and the boundless expanse around him. Winds blew in from all directions, as if whispering tales of things new and yet unknown. This feeling was unlike any other. It wasn't the fierce gales he once battled, nor the biting cold that pierced the skin. This was a new kind of wind, peaceful, full of promise, carrying the spirit of the future, as if signaling the start of a new journey. Daanu suddenly realized he was no longer just a survivor of challenges. He had become a guide, a pathfinder, a part of the wind of the future. He had faced trials, learned from hardships, and felt the transformation within himself. Now, he understood that this journey was not just about survival. It was a transformation, a continuous quest toward something better, toward a brighter future. Daanu kept walking, feeling the breeze swirl gently around him. He passed through vast meadows, where tall grasses bowed with the wind, as if they too shared his belief in the future. Everywhere he went, he could sense the change carried by the wind. It wasn't only shaping the world around him. It was reshaping each person from within. He had come to understand that the wind of the future didn't just come from the outside. It also rose from within ourselves. One day, as he passed through a peaceful valley, Daanu came upon a group of young people gathered around a campfire. They looked at him with curious eyes, as if waiting for a story, a lesson from all he had endured. Daanu sat down, feeling the warm air around the flames, and began to tell them his tale. "My friends," Daanu said, "I've walked through trials and stood against snowstorms, and I've learned that it is only when we face the strongest winds that we truly discover our strength. But the wind is not just something to resist. It is something to embrace. In every gust of wind lies an opportunity to explore, to learn, and to transform." A girl in the group asked, "So what should we do when we face great challenges in life? Can we control the wind?" Daanu smiled, gazing into her bright eyes, and replied, "We cannot control the wind, but we can control how we respond to it. If we only resist it, we will always be exhausted. But if we learn to move with the wind, we will find that each step carries a new strength." Danu's words were not just lessons he had learned on his journey. They were a reflection of his belief in the future, in the opportunities that he believed everyone could grasp. He realized that change was not just something to endure. It was a chance for everyone to become part of the future, to create something new for themselves and the world around them. Daanu stood up, looking at the group of young people who were attentively listening to him, and said, "Each of us has our own wind of the future. Don't fear challenges. Don't run from change. Let the wind guide you, because when we learn to move with the wind, we reach heights we never imagined." As Daanu continued his journey, he felt that every step was not merely an exploration, but a grand transformation. He had become a part of the wind of the future, not just to overcome trials, but to bring hope to everyone he met along the way. And in that moment, Daanu knew that his journey would never truly end. He would keep moving, keep sharing, and keep bringing change to all who were ready to receive it. What new challenges await Daanu on the path ahead? Who else will the wind of the future reach? Those who are waiting for change. If Daanu's story has inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Storylish English so you won't miss the next chapters. Let's follow Daanu's magical journey and embrace the wind of change in your own life. Chapter 12. The Threshold of Seasons, where the hidden corners of the wind are revealed. After leaving the valley where he had shared his story with the young travelers, Daanu continued his journey, carrying with him the belief and spirit of the wind of the future. But before long, he began to sense something strange. The winds were no longer in harmony. They no longer flowed smoothly and warmly as before. Instead, they grew chaotic. At times sharp and cutting cold, other times scorching hot like flames. It was as if the wind was shifting seasons, transitioning from an old state into something entirely different. And Daanu realized there was a door yet unopened, a secret realm of the wind no one had ever entered. On a misty moonlit night, Daanu stumbled upon a large crevice carved into a sheer cliffside. Wind blew from within, yet it had no scent, no temperature, no sound. And still, it made his heart pound strangely, as though the very essence of the wind, the primal, untouched wind, dwelled inside. He stepped in. Inside, Daanu felt as if he had crossed into a world of complete stillness. No echoes. No breath of earth or sky. Only a soft glow from the stone walls themselves, as if lit by ancient memories. Suddenly, a voice spoke. Not with sound, but with sensation. It was as though the wind was speaking directly into his thoughts. "Daanu, you have traveled far and learned much? But there is one last thing. Wind is not just what blows toward you. It is what awakens from within." Daanu closed his eyes. And in that moment, he saw the history of wind unfold before him. The first winds, born when the world was still chaos. Winds that carried the spirits of ancestors, whispering truths no one had ever understood. Winds that had been forgotten, buried because humanity no longer listened. He understood now. To become truly one with the wind, it wasn't enough to live in harmony with it. He had to awaken the wind within himself. The wind of intuition. The wind of awakening. the wind of silent transformation. At the end of the cave, a massive stone door slowly opened. From it poured out a white wind, formless, and yet filled with whispers of a world untouched by mankind. Stepping through that door would mean entering the very heart of the wind, the place where all origins converge and all futures begin. Daanu paused before the threshold. No fear, no questions. He knew, if he crossed it, he wouldn't just understand the wind, he would become a part of it forever. He took a deep breath and stepped into the threshold of seasons. What awaits Daanu beyond the wind's door? Could there be a greater truth still hidden on the other side? If you felt the stirring from this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Storylish English, and join Daanu in the final chapter, where the source of the wind is revealed and the last secret is set free. Final chapter, the heart of the wind, when the soul blends into the sky. Beyond the stone door, Daanu stepped into a realm no longer bound by the physical world. There was no ground beneath his feet, no darkness or light, only a softly glowing expanse, as if he were drifting through ancient layers of air filled with memories, souls, and sounds. In this space, all winds from the past, present, and future converged. He could feel the sorrowful winds that once passed through his ancestors' hearts, the hopeful breezes in a mother's lullaby, and the gusts of aspiration that propelled many to seek something greater. Daanu was no longer a solitary being. He had become part of the wind, not through oaths or rituals, but through complete understanding. A figure appeared, the wind eagle, not in its majestic feathered form from legends, but as a luminous, ever-shifting presence, both formidable and gentle. The wind eagle spoke, its voice a blend of nocturnal forests and morning oceans. Daanu, you have arrived. But I am not the destination of your journey. You are the answer to the wind. The wind eagle revealed that from the beginning, the wind had no master. It was absolute freedom, the earth's breath. However, as human hearts became clouded by ambition, the wind was misused and forgotten. Only those with pure hearts, untainted by power or fear, could truly hear the wind's whispers. Daanu was among the few who could. The wind eagle folded its wings, and where they touched the air, a radiant heart appeared, not of any creature, but the heart of the wind. It pulsed like a miniature universe, each beat echoing whispers from across the world, from arid deserts to icy mountain peaks. Daanu approached and, without words, placed his hand upon this heart. In that moment, he saw the entire world. A young boy herding buffalo, gazing at the windy sky, dreaming of freedom. An elderly woman by her window, reminiscing about her youth running through windswept fields. Gentle breezes altering destinies, stirring emotions, from weary soldiers to praying mothers. Then, the heart of the wind dissolved, not vanishing, but merging into Daanu himself. Daanu returned to the real world. But no one recognized him, not because he had changed, but because he had become part of the air, the sky, the winds that blow day and night across the world. So, whenever you feel a breeze, gentle or fierce, remember, it could be Daanu, the listener, the learner, who became the wind. The wind doesn't just pass by you. It comes to awaken you. Are you ready to listen to the wind within yourself? If you've journeyed with Daanu to the end, please like, share, and subscribe to Storylish English to explore more ancient legends rewritten with soul and emotion, like that nameless wind. See you in the next stories.